Rochester Local Podcast. My name is Becky Montpetit. I am the owner of Rochester Local, and today I'm joined by Catharine Richert, a reporter with Minnesota Public Radio based in Rochester, and I'm very excited to talk with you. But before we do that, I want to acknowledge the sponsors of this podcast. First up is the Edit Shop, who styled our beautiful set today. So if you need any help with interiors, please contact the Edit Shop. Also, First Alliance Credit Union, thank you for your sponsorship of our podcast. This is the first episode. I'm so excited.
I'm so excited for you.
So, Catharine, I'm going to ask you a couple questions, and we're going to get into the really good questions. So for the viewers and the watchers, what we're going to do on Rochester Local Podcast is get to know locals. We've had reader-submitted questions, and I am just going to go through and ask Catharine several different questions about what it's like to live in Rochester. How does she live as a Rochester local? But before I get into those questions, I want to know, how did we meet? Because I know this, and I want to see if you remember.
I remember.
Do you?
We were in Target.
Yes.
And I was like, are you the Rochester mom's mom?
Yeah.
Have we talked before? Because
Right.
I feel like I know you.
Right.
But then, hilariously, we both part ways in Target. We pledged to get together at some point, and then we both are at Trader Joe's 30 minutes later.
Yes.
And I'm like, I'm not following you, Becky.
But you are.
But I am.
Yeah. Exactly. And I just remember that because I think it was maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And I kind of remember we both had little kids at that time, but we're both professional and working, and we were both like, hey,
Yeah.
are you Catharine? Hey, are you? I mean, as we're buying, we were in the diaper aisle.
We were in the diaper aisle. It was absolutely, we were buying infant stuff. So that just says a lot about where we were in life at the time.
Right. Anyways, we become good friends, and I'm so honored to have you on the podcast. Just tell us a little bit about NPR. Do you have any projects coming up?
Yeah, actually, I'm so excited you asked. My colleagues and I are working on a project right now. It's called Winter Play. Winter Play. And it's all kind of in appreciation of winter in Minnesota. I am not from here. I am from North Carolina. One thing that surprised me, it's a little different, but one thing that has surprised me in a really good way since I moved here is how Minnesotans don't really complain about the cold weather.
Yeah.
I would assume that that's what you do in Minnesota, but it's sort of frowned upon, and I love how Minnesotans embrace it, right? So we came up with this idea that myself and all my colleagues who work in greater Minnesota, so not based in St. Paul necessarily, would try a winter activity that we had never done before. So we're going to be doing Snowga, which is snow yoga.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, I love this already. I love it already.
Ice fishing, obviously. I'm going to be going dog sledding next week.
See, I'm obsessed about this.
Yeah.
I am so obsessed. I cannot wait to read about
in the month of February, you're going to be hearing this on the air. You can read about it on our website. We're also going to be providing a lot of tips on how you can do it too, right?
Oh, I love it.
This is accessible stuff. Here's how you can try it. And we really want to hear from our audience as well. So if anyone listening has a great idea, you can DM me on Twitter. That's at Cat Richert. That's CATRICHERT.
You've done this a time or two.
I have done it a time or two. Or they can send stuff into our newsroom mailbox, or email inbox, which you can find on our website at nprnews.org.
Oh, I cannot wait. I hope that there's video.
There's going to be video. There's going to be pictures.
Oh,
video.
thank goodness. Yeah. Oh, thank goodness. Okay, so that makes
me screaming on the back of a sled.
I just cannot wait to see this. It's going to be the best. All right, let's get asking some questions. I cannot wait. Okay. Catharine, what makes you good at your job?
I'm nosy.
Oh, you're nosy.
No, I think about this a lot. Nosy is one way to put it. The nicer way to say it would probably be I'm authentically curious. And I really mean that.
Inquisitive?
I'm inquisitive. I think when I hear about anything, I want to know why, how.
Sure.
Yeah. So I think that's just a skill that I've always had, and it's part of my personality. And I think it's one reason why I've stuck with this career for almost 20 years, and I really, really love my job because every day I get to go out and learn something new, and I am constantly surprised.
Yes. No, I love that. And I think you kind of have to be built that way, right? It's not everyone who wants to go out and ask a question. I'm like this in my family. My mom just loves to ask enough questions to really get to know a person. And I think it's really funny because AJ is like, wow, AJ is my husband. He's like, ooh, you're asking a lot of questions. And I'm like, well, I'm just very curious, right?
And I think it requires a level of humility too.
Yeah.
I know I'm not the smartest person in the room, and I know that there are other people who know a whole lot more about things than I do. So you sort of approach the world that way.
And people live fascinating lives.
They do.
You need to know that. All right. Okay. What podcast are you listening to right now?
It's called Wind of Change. Becky, have you ever heard of it?
Only because you recommended it to me.
I haven't finished it yet. And it's actually a few years old, and I kind of missed the initial excitement about it. So I'm enjoying it now. But this is a podcast that seeks to answer the question of whether the CIA wrote the late 80s, early 90s hit by the Scorpions,
okay,
Wind
I'm
of Change.
I'm going to whistle it, right? Does anybody recognize this as how it goes?
Yeah.
Massive hit internationally.
Yeah.
Not as much in the U.S.
Yeah,
right?
but it's a song I think we've all heard, right?
Yeah.
On the radio at some point.
I feel like everybody's going to recognize that whistle.
Yeah.
Right?
And what I love about the podcast is that it is not just about this question. It's really an interesting exploration of how the CIA has collaborated with the entertainment industry over the years to complete their mission, right? Mm-hmm. Movies and music and all of that. And I find that stuff fascinating. I think in a different life, I could have been a spy or a detective or something like that.
You'd be a great spy. One of the things that really struck me about this podcast, and I really recommend it, but there is a language warning, so just be aware of that, parents, is that the CIA under, I think it was Eisenhower, decided to take a softer approach to propaganda.
Yeah.
As opposed to just like helicoptering in leaflets and like dropping them, places. They decided like what really affects a culture, and it's the things like entertainment, music, or whatever. So they're using things like songs
that resonate with people, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Did the CIA write Winds of Change?
Don't tell me if you know,
TBD,
because I
TBD. So if you're interested in anything like that, you definitely have to check out Winds of Change.
For sure.
All right. Best dish in Rochester.
Okay, so this is actually going to be a mashup of appetizers.
Oh, perfect.
At Thai Pop.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you get the son-in-law eggs.
So good.
You get the Brussels sprouts.
Yes.
And you get the tamarind shrimp. And you eat it yourself and don't share.
Absolutely. I would do a lot of things for those Brussels sprouts.
They're truly delicious.
They're amazing. If you have not had the Brussels sprouts at Thai Pop, give them a chance.
Yeah.
DoorDash tonight. What are some changes you've seen in Rochester since moving here? So maybe tell us when you moved here and what you've seen.
Okay, so I think I moved here at a really interesting time to answer that question. My then boyfriend, now husband, came in 2008, shocker, to be a resident at Mayo Clinic, right?
Shocker.
Yeah, weird reason to move here.
Yep.
And I came in 2009, and I have really seen the city transform under Destination Medical Center. Mm-hmm. It's something I pay a lot of attention to because it is part of my beat as a reporter who covers Southeast Minnesota for NPR. And, I can remember, I just really have vivid memories of going to Chester's a lot when we first moved here. And Chester's is great. Actually, side note, I was today years old, more or less, when I found out that Chester's is short for Rochester. Didn't know it. Never put the pieces together. So that's where that name came from. Apparently, this is what I hear. So,
oh my gosh. That's it's connected.
Yeah. But I've really seen the city change. The landscape has literally changed. The demographics have literally changed. The assortment of things to do and places to eat has really changed. And that's been a very exciting transformation to watch as someone who lives here, but also as someone who reports on this area. It seems like there's sort of endless things to cover. So, yeah.
Fun story about Rochester's. I lived here pre-Chester's. So when Chester's opened up, it was like, it was just like, it ushered in a new era of downtown dining. That's what I would say.
Yeah,
for sure.
I can see that.
Yep. Okay. What is something you find really interesting about Rochester?
Okay. So, more deep thinking.
Yep.
I really have loved peeling back the onion of Rochester. Obviously, we are closely associated with Mayo Clinic, and I think the clinic's approach to what it does seeps into our community and shows itself in really unexpected ways. The ethos of that institution is so embedded in our culture here. All that being said, I have really loved getting to know people like yourself, but also other friends who grew up here, who are not associated with Mayo Clinic. I'm kind of proud to say that like half of my social network now isn't necessarily associated with Mayo Clinic. And I have been really, I don't know, just inspired to see people here try new things that have nothing to do with the medical field. It's really fun to watch that happen. So I hope to see more of that going forward. So Rochester's a really surprising community. Once you've given it a little time, you have to get to know it.
I believe that too. And I think there's a real vibrancy. And sometimes it does just ripple right underneath the surface. And, uncovering that is so important. And I think that it's just been so exciting the last couple of years, like you said. So, all right, something a little bit more lighthearted. What is one random or eccentric fact about yourself?
So I used to play piano very competitively.
A competitive piano?
Well,
okay.
I'm setting you up for a surprise twist on that story.
I can't wait.
I also had like debilitating anxiety when I played, especially as I became a teenager and got older, which is strange to me now because I, sort of have to talk in the public all the time. It's not that much different. So I went to college at Oberlin College in Ohio, which is known mostly for the fact that it has one of the best music conservatories in the country, but I didn't enroll in the conservatory. I liked the idea of being in a musical community.
Okay.
And while I was there, I joined the steel drum band, and it was amazing and liberating.
A steel drum player.
Yeah, and it was an ensemble, and we would tour. We played, our practice schedule was bananas. I think we would practice 3 times a week until midnight at night for like 3 hours at a time. We took ourselves really seriously, but it's like a core Oberlin institution. And so it was a great way for me to continue to be musical and scratch that itch without having to take myself so seriously. And it was so fun to play as opposed to piano where I would like shake and like just freak out every time I had to play in front of people.
So do you have steel drums at home now?
I don't. I keep hoping Dave, if you're listening,
Dave,
I'm just going to reiterate my yearly suggestion that maybe a steel drum shows up in our house on my birthday.
Dave, call me. I'll help you make that happen. That's awesome. Steel drums.
Yeah.
Who would have known?
Who would?
That's amazing. Okay. Following off of music. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, Country Roads Take Me Home, John Denver. Yeah.
I'm really resisting the urge right now to sing it. People don't need to hear that. But that is a great one. I feel like I have one that's predictable, Don't Stop Believin', and one that is unpredictable. And that would be Under the Sea. I'm gonna smash it, The Little Mermaid. Because who expects the seaweed is always a karaoke bar? Yeah. But I know every single lyric to that song like the back of my head.
I would like to see that happen someday.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a major karaoke scene in Rochester.
Had no idea.
Right now.
You heard it first from Rochester Local.
Yes, right. Really heating up. Thesis, Charlie's, VFW, they all have karaoke.
Sounds like a night out.
Yeah, sounds like we should make a plan. All right, I'm going to skip around. Okay, here's one. If you could bring one amenity to Rochester, what would it be and why?
An ice skating rink in Peace Plaza or a splash pad or both. And I know we're getting a splash pad, which is exciting, but my kids will probably be a little too old to enjoy it by that time. Yeah. Now, let me just say something about the ice skating rink. I know that we have ice skating rinks around the community and on Soldiers Field.
Yes.
They're great. But I've been to places where it's like sort of a pop-up in the winter.
Yes.
There's vendors. It's like a whole winter outdoor experience, like Rockefeller Center. And I know we're not New York City.
Twinkle lights, music. I can picture.
I could really see that. And I think it would be great to have something that people can coalesce around downtown that isn't episodic, just 3 days or whatever.
Yeah.
And the whole town comes out if it's like 2 days and then it's super crowded.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's kind of like ongoing, and then there's somebody there and they're stoking the bonfire or whatever. Yeah. And now I'm envisioning somebody is selling those roasted spiced nuts that you can get at markets.
Yeah.
So
there's music playing. You can rent skates. Yeah.
Sounds really romantic. Okay, we can make that happen, right? Let's make that happen. All right. Best Rochester adventure you've been on?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so way back in the day, okay, this is like Rochester adjacent. It's not in Rochester.
Yeah, that's fine. Within the 30-mile radius.
So I have friends named Kyle and Emily who are really adventurous. And there was a time when we didn't have kids and we lived down the street from each other. And one day it was like a Saturday and they called me up and they were like, do you want to go morel hunting? And I was like, yeah, I got nothing to do. I have no obligations. Yeah. So we went morel hunting in Whitewater State Park. And it was wild. I couldn't find one, but my friend Emily has like morel mushroom X-ray vision.
Radar,
and she just came back with a pile of them. So it was just like this kind of fun, spontaneous day. And then we ate at some barbecue place somewhere nearby, and I can't even tell you where it was. It's somewhere between here and there in Whitewater.
Here and there.
Yeah, it was great.
Oh, so fun. Whitewater is such a great place. Yeah. Such a great place. I feel like it's not a hidden gem, but yeah, Whitewater. Check plus. Okay, one more question. I'm going to ask you thoughts on the Rochester geese.
Oh, God. Okay.
Tell me.
Okay, so real love-hate relationship. I personally love the geese. I don't mind when they stop traffic. I think it's quaint and cute.
Quaint and cute. Okay.
I know other people would disagree.
Okay.
My problem is with the poop.
The poop.
And I cannot stress to you how the poop actually factors into decisions about what we end up doing. Do we go? Yeah. Sometimes we're like, are we going to down by the riverside? Yes. Because that area is covered in goose poop. So if we could do something about the poop,
yeah,
I would love the geese like 100%. But right now it's sort of 50-50.
I know. You kind of have to like watch your step, right? Like
big time. Yeah.
Okay. So thanks for answering those questions.
Absolutely.
Something else that we're going to be doing on the Rochester Local Podcast is tying back into the locals that have lived here before us.
Okay.
Rochester was incorporated, I think, shortly before it became a state. I'll have to look before Minnesota became a state. I'll have to look into that. But my mom, who is this major historian, shout out Chris Weens, thank you so much for your research. She has been looking into different things that happened in Rochester in its past, specifically locals. Okay. So she went to the Historical Society and just kind of started poking around. The week of January 10th, 1923. So 100 years ago.
To date.
Right. To date.
Okay.
So she came up with this, which I think is hilarious. So I'm going to talk about it. All right. So see, I'm old. Police think city is nice, quiet town. A news article from 1923. Almost too quiet is complaint of the officers on their beats in an effort to remain warm. Too quiet, complain the cops on their beats. The Rochester policemen are of the opinion that if they had a little excitement now and then to stir them up, they would not notice the cold weather so much. Rochester is either a... here we go. Rochester is either a banditless city, or they think it is a hard town to get out of, or we have got them bluffed, ventured one of the local minions of the law this morning. I don't want to see any robberies pulled off, but I would like something to take my mind off the cold.
Well, that's some good journalism right there. That's a good lead.
Right? What do you think? What I think is interesting is that they're looking for something to keep them warm.
Yeah, right. So I would love to read that to a Rochester police officer today.
Right. Rochester police officer, if you're listening, tell us your thoughts on that.
It's hard. I mean, Rochester is a safe community, you know,
right.
And I feel so safe here, but I think, just how times have changed, right? I mean, I imagine, first of all, we have heating in cars now, so that's not so much of an issue.
So you think back 100 years ago, we're talking about, I want to know, were they walking around town? They clearly didn't have like cars with sirens going all over the place. Did they have an automobile?
Yeah, maybe not, right? And
maybe
they're just walking the beat downtown.
Right, and they're just looking for something
to keep them warm.
Or,
someone to run after.
Mrs. Norris's cat out of the tree or something. Yeah. But man, they were complaining about no activity in Rochester, which is a really interesting thing to report on.
Yeah, I love it. That's great.
So we'll be doing more of those because I think it's just so interesting to realize like, hey, you and I are living our lives right now. And we're locals, but it's hard to remember that there's been so many generations of locals. And I think looking back in history is a lot of fun. So we'll be doing that.
I love it.
And then the last thing that I wanted to do with you today on this very first Rochester Local Podcast is introduce our sticker board.
Okay.
So here's what we're going to do. So as you can see, we've got one sticker right in the middle. What we're going to be doing is inviting you, our viewers and listeners, to send in a sticker. We're going to slap it on our board, and we're going to talk about whatever it represents, a business, a restaurant, an organization, or whatever. We want to be able to highlight it on the podcast. So we got started with the Minnesota logo sticker. My husband AJ made it, and I think he made it maybe like 4 years ago.
Okay.
This was when Rochester Local was Rochester Mom. We changed our name recently, and we really used it to promote the website, the city. We handed it out, so it's very nostalgic to me. So I just wanted to slap it up there as the first sticker, and then invite anybody else who wants to send in a sticker to message me, and I'll give you the address to mail it to. But yeah. So anyways.
It's a good sticker. I feel like it's sort of timeless.
Yeah, it is a little timeless. Yeah, it is a little timeless, and AJ's very talented, so I had to show off his skills. So anyways, Catherine, thank you so much.
Oh, Becky, my pleasure.
Me on the very first episode of the Rochester Local Podcast. So again, thank you to First Alliance Credit Union for sponsoring this podcast, and we will see you next time.